Okay, hi guys. It's a little cold in my classroom, so I have my jacket on today. So you are opening up Illustrator, and in Illustrator, it looks a little busy and it might look a little bit different than mine because right here would be work that other students more than likely have already done. You can't actually access the work because you're logged into your account, but you can see it. Your files are going to be right here. So when you click on your files, you probably won't have anything there. Whereas Mrs. Fitz has a ton of stuff because I work in Illustrator all the time. All right. So you have a couple different options. You can create a new file in Illustrator, which is technically just, it's called an artboard. I like to think of it as like the piece of paper that you're going to work on. And that artboard lets us set up our file for either the web 72 dots per inch and RGB color mode, or it allows us to also set up 300 pixels per inch and CMYK. Okay, we know that vectors technically can be scalable, Mrs. Fitz, so why does that matter? Once again, it just matters where are you going to be using this? Are you using it digitally or are you going to print it? So that makes a big difference. Okay, so you could click on an existing file. When you click on your files, if you're working on something you already started, all right, and you'll just click on it and we'll open it, or you can go ahead if you're going to start a new file, a new drawing, a new illustration, Adobe Illustrator, you're going to click New File. You're going to get this dialog box that's going to pop up. Right here is where you're going to put the title of whatever it is that you're working on. I'm just going to type in practice right now for the title. And then your inches. Remember, we are lovely snobby Americans that like to do things in inches. And if you know pixels or if you need to use centimeters, feel free using whatever you're comfortable with. But for us right now, I'm going to have one artboard, one piece of paper, and that is why Illustrator is so great because it allows you to have multiple, how many artboards you want. So you can work on a lot of different things at the same time for a project. Your width is right here. So in this case, I'll get a square that's 3 inches by 3 inches. It's right here, print. But they have, if we look up here on the dialog, they have all these different presets. All right. They also have some templates if you wanted to. I stay away from this though. There's web, film and video, art and illustration, and then they would have more mobile. All right. So the nice thing with the mobile is that they'll have your social media presets. They'll have Instagram. But I like to just create my own. I always just go into Illustrator and tell it that we'll go a 3 inch by 3 inch square just because we're practicing. Color mode. Now, reminder, RGB is if this is going to go on the web, okay? CMYK if it's going to get printed. If you're not quite sure if you're going to use it both ways, definitely choose CMY color because you have less colors. So when you go to convert it, you won't have any issues. If you start with RGB and try to print it, not as many colors exist with CMYK. I mean, there's millions, but it's just your colors are going to look a little off. So I just always start with CMYK and I put 300 pixels per inch. And then the preview mode, I just say default. Okay, and I'm going to hit create. Now, I have my 3x3. Okay, I have my rulers on, which is also right here, rulers, underneath view, okay, Control R, and you can see that it's 0 to 3. This looks much bigger than 3 inches because on my screen, if I take my ruler and I measure it, what I think I'm looking at right now is almost 9 inches by 9 inches, but it's not. I'm just zoomed in, okay? So how do I get my rulers on? Control R. All right, and then how do I zoom in and zoom out? There's this little magnet, the zoom tool here, so I can zoom way the heck in. If you hold down Alt, A-L-T, you can zoom out. And then the sticky hand tool allows you to move it around. So if you're like working up here, you zoom in on accident, you click on the sticky hand tool or the H tool, and you can grab it back. So H tool, and I believe the space bar does it as well. So if you're on a different tool, if you're moving stuff around and you need to center this, holding down the space bar does the same as the letter H. Okay, So there we go. We've got the sticky hand tool. I can zoom in and zoom out. A shortcut for zooming in and zooming out would also be Control plus or Control minus. Control plus and Control minus. Again, all these commands are for a PC because that is what we are working on in class. Consult Google for what you would use on a Mac. Okay. The top little tool here is our selection tool that allows us to actually select things. When the blue, when you have it highlighted in the blue, that means something is actually selected. Okay. Up here at top, we have all of our different windows: edit, object, type, select, effect, view, and window. I think for us right now, we won't touch this too much, but definitely window and workspace. When we're not working with type, when we're doing more illustration work in Illustrator, we want to make sure we're on Essentials Classic. You always want to double check that when you come into the classroom that somebody else hasn't worked on your computer. All right, so if you have another student coming in and working a lot with type, right, letters, that kind of stuff, they might switch it to typography to get the shortcuts that they need. Make sure you're always in Essentials Classic. These are all windows, okay? So there we go, window, workspace, Essentials Classic. Not Essentials, Essentials Classic. You'll get a lot more tools, okay? So now let's talk about the toolbar. The toolbar, and I have a lot of these little windows open, and I apologize. You can go ahead and close all these right now. You don't really need any of these. The toolbar can get moved around. I just click on these little dashes right here, all right? And then the little double arrows will give you your tools in a double column if you want. I highly suggest you don't, especially when you first start using Illustrator and you have the selection tool and then you have the direct selection tool and you're not quite sure which does which yet. I like it a single column because now you know this one is the selection tool and then this one is the direct selection tool, and I feel like that is just way more organized than what you need or for what you guys need. Okay, over here are your properties. So every tool will have different properties. At some point you can go ahead and click tool options. You can also right click or double click to get the tool options on any of these. If your toolbar has a little arrow in the bottom right hand, it means there's other tools hiding behind them. Okay, if you don't see a tool, Mrs. Fitz says, oh, get the picker tool, okay, the eyedropper tool. You click the three dots down at the bottom and then you can go ahead and find them and add them. Since I'm in Essentials Classic, all of them have already been added and I don't need to add any tools. So that's why none of them are lit up, because they're all here. You can, I believe you can edit your toolbar if you like, but we don't usually do that. We just usually leave everything the way it is. Okay, so here is my artboard. I can Control plus and Control minus to zoom in, zoom out. I turn on my rulers. I always keep my rulers on. Control R. I keep my toolbar as a single column. Click those little arrows there. Mrs. Fitz, I click the X. How do I get my toolbar back? Window, workspace. All right, and just say Reset Essentials Classic, and it should show up. Okay, and you should be able to pull that out and go ahead and click. You also have your toolbar. Oops, that's properties, sorry. Let me get it. It would be your toolbar, maybe control, no. That's a good question. That's how I just always do it, but I'm sure you can do it another way. But that's how I get my toolbar back, okay? So if I accidentally delete my toolbar, all right, and I really zoom out and I realize it's not over here in left field, and I really did accidentally delete it, Windows, workspace, and then reset it, and then grab your toolbar, and there you go. Okay, so that's just a quick little intro to what we will be really using for the first couple of days, possibly weeks of